What do Michael Jackson, R.A.T, and the Oscars have in common? Today, we are diving into how a horror movie led to a pretty curious and honestly kind of contradictory story. Because its soundtrack ended up being the complete opposite of what you expect from a film with such dark themes. And even more unexpected, what happened to that song and what it quietly means. It may not be Michael Jackson's most famous track today, but we are about to uncover what Ben is really about. From an evil rat to a song, all the way to a source. I'm Darius, and this is the story of Ben by Michael Jackson. First question: Michael Jackson singing for a horror movie? Sounds weird. If you think about it, maybe not that weird, especially when you remember Thriller, where Michael Jackson fully leaned into the horror vibe. Still, this is different. Here, we are talking about a kid who had just been part of the Jackson 5. Bright, cheerful, feel-good music like A.B.C. So, if you are directing a horror movie, you are probably looking for something darker. Maybe something that builds tension, mystery, maybe even fear. Not exactly the voice of the kid singing ABC. And don't get me wrong, those songs are timeless, but scary is not the first word that comes to mind. And this is where things start to get interesting, because behind this choice there is a move, a mental and commercial move, one that's not easy to pull off. But when it works, it really works. Let me ask you something. When you see megastars like Michael Jackson, how do you think they got there? Is talent alone enough? Hard work? Well, not really. Because whether we like it or not, it usually takes a lot more than that to reach the top. In this case, Michael's label at the time, the legendary Motown, was thinking bigger. They didn't just want music, they wanted Hollywood. They already had a song ready. But here's the twist. It wasn't written for Michael. It was meant for another singer. But then, everything shifts. Because of that move we mentioned earlier, and Destiny had a plan. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wanted something and felt completely sure it was exactly what you needed? And then things changed, and what you got wasn't what you expected, until you realized it was actually what you needed all along? That's basically what happens with Ben. Quick context. Even though it starts as a horror movie, it doesn't stay there. It becomes something much more emotional, because at its core, it's a history with two sides. And that connects directly to the song. We follow Danny, a boy with fragile health living isolated in a hospital. No real social life, just loneliness. And then there's Ben, a highly intelligent rat, a leader, the head of a rat army spreading terror across a city. Yeah, not exactly friendly, but Ben sees something different in Danny. And Danny sees something different in Ben. Not a monster, a friend. So here's the real question: what happens when someone you care about is seen as a monster by everyone else, but you know them differently? Because this happens more than we think. People who don't fit in, people society rejects. They get pushed into isolation, into loneliness, and sometimes into paths that don't end well. Ben and Danny are two beings who found each other in that loneliness, and somehow filled that emptiness, and all of that became a song. So now look at the picture. A horror movie with an emotional core, a record label trying to break into Hollywood, and a song that steps away from fear and leans into feeling. So let me ask you, what kind of voice would you choose? If all you saw was a creepy rat on a poster, you would probably say, give it to an adult. But now you know better. Ben isn't really about horror, it's about connection, about being misunderstood. Ben represents someone complicated, someone rejected. And Danny? He represents innocence, the ability to see what others can't. So now it feels obvious. You need a voice that carries that innocence. But at first, they chose Danny Osmond for the song, until someone stopped and said, wait. And Motown made the call. Michael Jackson was the right choice. And what happened next was bigger than anyone expected. Michael's performance captures something special. The emotion, the vulnerability, it all landed. And sure, he was already known from the Jackson 5. But this was different. This felt personal. Motown went all in. They submitted the song to the Oscars, and yes, it got nominated. Now, quick detail. In this category, the award goes to the songwriters, not to the singer. So in this case, Don Black, who wrote the lyrics, and Walter Scharf, who made the music. But even though it didn't win, something bigger was happening, because Ben hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. And just like that, Michael Jackson had his first number 1 as a solo artist. That moment, it opened the door because it proved something important. He wasn't just the kid from the Jackson 5 anymore. He could stand on his own. And from there, everything changed. And yeah, that's the story behind Ben. Do you already know this song? A better question. Have you ever had someone in your life that you truly value that others just don't understand? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy this kind of content, leave a like. Tell me what song I should cover next. Subscribe, of course. And God bless you all.